I do that when I go to church too. I don't turn it back on until about Tuesday.
It's hard. I've pulled too much and broke too much. It's all caught up with me in life. I get out of bed and there's creaks and pops.
Our next joint meeting is 15th.
My daddy always said, you're gonna regret that one day.
I'll be fine.
He was right.
Oh yeah, he was so right.
Clay and I talked about this. He doesn't want to do a shot to get everybody out and just do it at our joint meeting next week. So hopefully we'll have it.
So, it must be the 12th. The regular meeting is the 19th, then the joint meeting will be the 12th.
Oh,
Probably. Well, there we go.
The 5th was when the meeting was supposed to be.
That's official.
Like 4. I'd like to call this meeting to order. March 15th, 2023, at 8:30 a.m., the Spalding County Water and Sewage Facilities Authority regular meeting. I'd like to have a motion to adopt the agenda.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor? Bear with me, people, I gotta make notes.
Noted.
If y'all would stand for the invocation, led by Jim Skinner, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by me.
Let's pray. Our most heavenly and gracious Father, Lord, to give you thanks for this day. Thank you for allowing us to come together to discuss the business of the county. Lord, I ask that you be with Stephanie and her family, Lord, in their recent loss, and just wrap your arms around them, let them know whatever we can do to help. Help us to be faithful stewards of what you give us. Through your Son's most holy and blessed name I pray. Amen.
Pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no citizen comments.
We do not, sir.
Item 6, consider approval of the February 15th, 2023 regular scheduled meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, they appear to be in order unless somebody has any corrections. I move they be approved.
Have a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Consider acceptance of the March 1st, 2023 Planning Committee meeting minutes and March 8th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting minutes.
The same motion, sir. I believe they're in order. Move they be approved unless somebody has a correction.
Have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, you should announce your vote so that Charlie can hear it.
Thank you. 8-0 on both of those, Mr. Hearn.
There's 7.
You're supposed to announce the correct vote.
That's okay, we got you.
I
We got you,
apologize.
sir.
7-0. Item 8, the financial report. Consider acceptance of the financial report as presented by General Manager Johnson.
So Charlie should have passed out revised financial water sales summary, and that is just simply due to timing. The
A
city's
little louder, please.
the city's typically really good at getting us the information by the 10th of the month, and because this meeting fell on the 15th, so we got it over the weekend, and you're looking at an updated sheet To date, we've sold 579 million gallons of water, and we're projected to be around 4% above our revenues. Looking at the customer summary, we have a total of 15,345 customers, and we're a total. One thing to note is the residential customer average consumption is ticking up a little bit. Historically, we're around $48, and we're now down to, or up to $50.70 as the average bill. But we're still on pace for, we don't think anything is too terribly different with our business operations year to date. Any questions on the financial report?
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the financial report.
I have a motion, second.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? That would be 7-0, Charlie. Item 8, special committee report. First one would be the planning commission, Mr. Morrow.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we had an excellent joint report. We just met and discussed, and one of the things we discussed was the CDBG grant potential for looking at the Pine Tree Hills and East Griffin areas both, with the primary emphasis being on Pine Tree Hills, and if they did not meet the criteria, we had East Griffin areas as backup. As we know, both of those areas have considerable sewer and waste issues. So we had a good discussion on that, and we had a consensus. So we're going to we request that we go ahead with Alan Smith Consulting, talk to Deborah Smith, and start the process moving. Secondly, we talked about the potential fiscal year 24 projects we wanted to see, the water model update, and so on. And we had a consensus to move ahead with all those, and that was passed on to the Finance Committee, and you'll see it in the budget talk. And last but not least, we had a pretty good discussion on the Sun City wastewater treatment plant, and we have a consensus that we need a committee to sit down and meet with them and find out what they have, if you will, because some of us think that that's an important piece of our long-term sewer puzzle in this county, and we need to know the details and how it works and their finances. And folks like Wade also are quite concerned about its condition and what would happen if they abandoned it, left us stuck. So rather than all this sort of needless conjecture, we ought to sit down with them and discuss that. And I know Wade and Jeff and I and Joseph all volunteered to be on such a committee to go meet with Sun City and discuss it. And I would hope that we could do that. And anybody else that might want to join the committee so we could have a good discussion with Sun City sewer plant people and actually find out what's going on. That's my report.
Ms. Matlock.
Yes, sir. Finance Committee met on the 8th. One of the things we discussed intently was the budget, and it does include adding GIS. It also included adding several things that were discussed at the Planning Committee meetings, such as a water model, rate analysis, asset management, and cost of service study. With the GIS department, we will add one analyst for the first year and consider a second one for Spalding County after that first year. We discussed the wholesale rate projection, and Mr. Johnson told us that the projected savings through June of 23 will be approximately $83,000. We are invited to come and look at the new proposed office space for the Water Authority, which will be the old tax assessor's office. And as you read, the room is will be remodeled. Lance Griffin, the Director of Construction and Maintenance, is looking at that and getting up an estimate for us already. And Deborah Smith with Allen Smith Consulting has agreed to come and work with us on April the 12th at our combined meeting to give us some insight about the CDBG grant possibilities. And that is the extent of our discussions.
Thank you to both our committees. Item 9,
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, may we ask a question about the committee meeting?
absolutely.
So we're moving, the Water Authority is moving from our present
That is
offices.
the proposal. And we're invited to go look at that space after this meeting if you like.
There's a couple of reasons for that proposal is when we moved the tax assessor office down to the other building, that left it vacant. And as we grow, we have no room in the present office to add GIS or engineers and so on. So that office is available, and it also is much more convenient for customers coming in right
Oh,
there.
you know what, I'm sorry, I'm thinking the tax assessor's office down the street,
No, we're
which,
looking in the old
so my
one.
question was like, why are we moving all the way down the street? So that's the first question. And we are going to be requesting from the Spalding County Board of Commissioners permission to lease that space?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay.
I think there was some,
Yeah, we're gonna have a discussion.
we was gonna have a discussion about it. The GIS, part of the GIS is we was kind of hoping Spalding County would defray the cost, but Spalding County is not really under budget this year, so we're talking about delaying that a year. Then there was some discussion of trading out the use of the GIS for the office space, and I think the majority of the members said that we would just assume pay rent and just keep everything financially separate, if that makes sense. But yeah, this was like the beginning discussion of all that.
So my other question then about the GIS, which I think when we talked about, a little bit about this in the planning committee meeting, we're gonna get an analyst, and the purpose of our analyst, remind me again, for
So-
why we need it and a GIS analyst?
So a lot of the projects that we have coming on the books for the water model update, the asset management plan, a lot of that is tied and geared towards GIS. Well, right now, we're waiting for a contract employee to provide these services, and they have a regular 8 to 5 job.
So then my question would be, have you, and I'm pretty sure you have, looked at what, if any, the cost savings are gonna be? Are we going out 4 times a year to pay somebody to do GIS for us? And do we actually have enough work for a full GIS analyst?
So it would be cheaper in the upfront to hire a consultant, but the problem is you are going to continue hiring a consultant on a annual or semi-annual basis to provide these updates. Well, we're going to be back in the same boat that we are now, where we provide the information to the consultant or to the contract employee, and we're waiting on them to give us data in return. So while it'd be cheaper today to just hire a consultant for a long-term sustainable plan moving forward, I would recommend we get our own people where our staff and county personnel will know that when they go out and they do GPS points or they have these ideas, they can go talk to someone and we can start expediting a lot of these processes.
So I don't have a problem at all with us requiring GIS as a water authority. My concern starts being when we start intermixing the duties of the GIS person with the responsibilities of what it is that the county is spending, which is another whole meeting altogether. But that was my only question. And then the thought about the consideration of a second analyst, I just hope that is after the first year consideration for a second analyst for Spalding County. I don't even know why we're discussing that. That's Spalding County. That's
Well, the reason why I wanted to make sure we notated it is because we're going to have enough work to keep our analysts busy. So if we're expected to support Spalding County efforts, it's going to slow us down on what we need to do.
There would need to be an intergovernmental agreement between the two agencies to make sure that we are in compliance with where the money's coming from. And some of that discussion was had during the meeting.
So as an authority, have we utilized the services of the city's GIS person?
So, yeah, that's who right now Spalding County contracts with.
Okay, so we have to get them to work for us after they finish working?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, it's only one person.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. All right, that's
And-
all my questions.
Okay.
We're low on the priority list.
I mean, I totally get it, and there's nothing like having your own person. Yeah, I was just,
And then now they have a bunch of new polls and things like that I'm probably sure that guy's probably gonna be busy with for a while.
do we think we'll be able to find a GIS person?
Well, I've had pretty extensive conversations with the Esri team that helped us develop this budget. And they said once we get the job descriptions drafted, that they'll push it out through all their channels with the Esri, I guess, world. And he says that he doesn't believe, based on the price points that we're putting in at, he said he thinks we'll get a lot of action on them.
Okay, that's all the questions I had.
We'll
Thank
see.
you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm forgetting to ask that too. Item 9, General Manager's Report. Consider acceptance of the General Manager Report as presented by General Manager Johnson.
So the non-revenue water, as of the end of February, we've put 13 million gallons on the ground, which equates to roughly $17,000. We've had 180 captured events. The meter sales, as discussed last month, we knew we were tracking low. We're starting to get back on track. Right now, year to date, we're roughly 82% where we should, or on our historical usage or purchases. And then the fire hydrant maintenance report, we've touched a total of 1,087 fire hydrants, but we're tracking, it's gonna take us roughly 2 years to get on board. So remember, we keep talking about repurposing Greg Elliott. We're in the process of starting that process now. So I'm expecting over the next 60 days, we will get him doing this 100% of the time.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? Another question. Joseph, I know that we've hired some people from the city, but how gray is our water authority? You know, minus you and Charlotte, how gray is our water authority staff? And I'm asking that, does that mean that they're gonna be here 2 years? Does that mean they're gonna be here 3 years? You know, we're getting this expertise, and if they're 62 to 65, they're probably not gonna be hanging around with us. So just wondering.
So Danny, myself, and Richard were the last 3 hired. Danny said that he's looking for about 5 years. Richard is relatively young. I think we have over 10 years with him. But when you look at Greg Elliott and William Ballard, William could retire in the next 2 years if he wanted to. So we are, turnover is on my mind every day.
So, yeah, I mean, I love the idea that we're getting people that have experience, but I don't want us to get 3 years down the road and then the bottom's gonna drop out for us because people wanna retire.
That's correct.
That's the entire United States at the moment.
Well, a very large segment of it. So yeah, just keeping in mind as we're looking for people that, you know, we live in a community of fairly old people, a lot, and I mean, I know the retirement age keeps going up, but that's no guarantee that everybody's gonna stay to that long, so.
That's right.
Just looking at our longevity and our busyness as we start looking for personnel.
Some of us see old age ahead of us.
Yeah, yeah, but I'm just saying, we're kind of fighting that, the county right now. So
And-
as a reality, we need to definitely address it with all the stuff that we're saying that we want to do as we
Yeah, The
project.
entire country's fighting.
Hey.
Trying to recruit
You have to put a name on it.
People who actually want to use these,
Yeah,
it's a challenge right now.
yeah.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
mean, to your point, Brendan and I are going after a lot of the same people, so, yeah.
Y'all need to stop doing that. I know.
We're swimming
Okay.
in the shallow end.
Yeah.
Cool. So we just need to buy a bigger net then.
That's,
Okay. We
that's
can
one
do
school of
that.
thought. That completes my report.
Man, you're quick. Any other questions for?
Yeah. Okay, you're not going on to the sewer feasibility study and the other
Oh,
parts?
I'm sorry, my papers were in the wrong order. So, the sewer feasibility study, I'll provide an update, all right? In the planning and finance committees, I alluded to the fact that we had a significant change in our project team. We were provided the flow projections. We had some questions regarding how they were, on some assumptions they were making. I asked for a data request and was told they were only going to provide what they're contractually obligated to provide. So, they kind of showed us their hand. At this point, I got confirmation that the last invoice through February 28th will be the last invoice and paid up to date. It's my recommendation that I would ask your approval to get the county attorney to help us send a letter to basically cancel the contract with Gresham Smith. The level of effort we're gonna get out of Gresham Smith is not gonna be what we were expecting with the project team that's currently in place. And we've had talks with Rebecca, and she said that she has no problem finishing the project for the current budget that's left, and moving forward. So that's kind of my take.
This was very concerning. We discussed this at the planning meeting, and the lady, what's her name,
Rebecca?
Rebecca, yes.
Yep.
Has parted company with Gresham Smith, and she was the heart and soul of the study. And the two young guys were working under her, and they completed the, quote, study. What we have now is a bunch of arithmetic, and that's it, because they figured the flow projections for all these corridors. They took the zoning, potential density, and potential need, and gave us a bunch of arithmetic, these flow projections, and then stopped. And that's technically what we paid for. But we were told unofficially that we would get some follow-on, if you will, guidance using those numbers, where to go to, where do they low-hanging fruit, things to concentrate on, what to do. We have this pile of arithmetic, and that's it, which gives us no guidance.
So remember, the flow projections is the first step in order to have a educated discussion with any intergovernmental agreement or any utility. So if we're gonna ask the city of Griffin for some capacity, they're gonna wanna know how much capacity they're gonna have to give up. Or if we wanna go to Henry County, Hampton, whoever. Well, based on the projections that we have now, one of the assumptions is every house that's on septic will get connected to sewer day one. Well, we know that's not the case at all. So I started having some heartburn on the presentation of the flow projections based on conversations that Rebecca, myself, Cameron, and Zephyrin had on Teams meetings. We specifically were looking for, they were gonna split the 1941 North Expressway corridor in half and then kind of show flows going one way versus the other. They didn't show that. We were asking for a phased approach. Well, you would think the phased approach would be in the flow projection summary. They're not, they just regurgitated what we discussed in the workshop and threw some numbers with some densities. So they're not getting a lot of high-level input from the executive team. And when we negotiated this contract, Rebecca was originally, Gresham Smith was at $190,000. they started scaling it back because she was gonna delegate a lot of the low-hanging analysis to the younger engineers, but she was gonna have her thumb on the team at all times. Well, now that she's not there, there's no one that's keeping their thumb on the pulse.
How much is left in the contract?
Roughly $85,000.
$85,000?
Yeah, they're about 40%, 41% billed.
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't understand. We did the two or three work sessions with them, and I felt like we were very clear that not only was our expectation was for them to provide the numbers, but they were also supposed to summarize what those numbers meant. And summary in terms of which area would be the lowest hanging fruit to develop and what the potential would be. Certainly never gave them any indication that every single house would jump onto sewer once we provided a sewer line. So I'm just like really confused.
So let's don't
And
expect.
I'm saying unhappy, I use the word. I feel like we've come up short.
Like they didn't do what
Well,
we asked them to do.
The project's not done, and to their credit, the flow projections is not gonna tell us the low-hanging fruit at this point. The flow projections is gonna give us a understanding of, okay, so if we're gonna talk with the city of Griffin about trying to buy some capacity, and they give us an appetite that, yeah, we're willing to do it, and this is what it would look like, you have to know how to vet how much it's gonna cost for your stuff to determine if it's cheaper for us to go out on our own or enter into these agreements. Rebecca understood our expectations. She read the technical memorandum, and her question, just like ours, was, okay, so how are we gonna use this information going forward? The expectation was the technical memo would present a case saying, this is the phased approach that we're saying, this is what the flows look like, this is what the next steps look like. Because ultimately, the reason why we did these hard stops is because if we were going down a path and this technical memorandum showed that the flows just don't make sense and that the dollars associated with these flows don't make sense, it gave us an opportunity to say, at this point in time, there's no need to spend any more money if we really chose not to. So that's the reason why we had these hard stops. So I still think we could get there. I just don't have a lot of faith with the oversight that's happening.
I think we have a couple of potential paths.
Yes.
One is Rebecca's on her own now. She could potentially, we could contract with her to continue this work in their own firm. Or the other firm that came in a very close second, I forget which name.
Turnip seed.
So Turnip Seed was the second one we interviewed.
Yeah, so we could move over to the next one, which was a very close analysis, and talk to them, but, in my opinion, where we are with Gresham Smith is a dead end. I'm not pleased.
And
What do
moving-
you water guys think?
Well, if we move to turnip seed, then we'd be starting over, correct?
That's right. The only
We're
thing
not
that
gonna
we
pick
wouldn't
up
have to
with-
do is the workshops, but we would have to regurgitate everything and all the expectations and everything we've discussed up to this point.
And start over in the dollars.
It possibly. I don't know. I haven't engaged Turnip Seed.
Yeah.
More,
Have you talked to Rebecca anymore about whether she's interested in taking this upon in her new business?
She said that she has no problem. She wanted to see this project to the end, and she was hoping that I told Randy Booker, one of the gentlemen that was here with Gresham Smith, that we asked if they were gonna subcontract with Rebecca, and they said no. So I was hoping they were gonna bring her on and keep her on the project team, but I don't know what happened with that whole situation. But yes, Rebecca has alluded to she would not be opposed and would have the ability to finish this project.
Well, it seemed to me like that's a easier and better path if we could continue with her and rather than starting over somebody else.
my only concerns, I've dealt with Rebecca since Woods and
Burns McDonald.
Barnes McDonald,
Yep.
she's, Jacob, she's been,
I can't
about every
wait.
5 or 6 years. If we were to contract directly with her, we would have to treat her just like we would treat any other company. She's gonna have to have the insurance and all that stuff. And
Right.
Have you asked, has she indicated that may be an issue? That's expensive stuff for someone to go out on their own and just get.
She already has that. We just entered into a contract with her, or in the process of entering into a contract with her for some community development work.
Okay.
And I've reviewed her MSA, and
She's
we've
sharp.
made changes to it already, so.
She's sharp, but I just don't wanna enter into a contract with somebody, working out of their basement that doesn't have insurance and things like that.
She has insurance.
Mr. Chairman, so, I guess my question is, if I'm not mistaken, we had said all along, we have to have this study before we can move anywhere.
That's right.
So we just need to try to figure out, if it's with Rebecca, how to expedite this or get it back on track. Because we're just on hold
Yes.
Well,
until we get this information. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're saying that we want to go out and do, we can't do without,
I'm not sure what everybody's expectations were. I'm gonna tell you what my expectations were. The entire study is based on hypotheticals. Hypothetically, if this many houses decide to jump on sewer, we run the line. Hypothetically, if we get this much flow, it's gonna make more sense to go to Griffin versus us. It's all on hypotheticals. I have limited expectations for sewer feasibility study. Because at the end of the day, yes, sewer's feasible. It just depends on how much you want to pay for it. But, I know, I don't really know, but I have worked with Rebecca Lindsay through several engineers, and she's sharp. And she was the one that stole the show. So, I'm not opposed to canceling or stopping what we're doing with Gresham Smith and going with her to finish the study. I'm not opposed to it, but I just want everybody to understand what my expectations of this was.
Well, we have nothing on the agenda today about making that decision, but I think,
we need to.
in my opinion, we need Joseph to actively discuss this and pursue this, and if he thinks we can work that out, bring it to this board as soon as possible so we can move on down the road, because we're, like I say, we're
We're
just.
waiting.
We're in a holding pattern. I spent a lot of years in holding patterns, I don't like them.
Yeah.
I don't believe we need a vote to get Joseph to do all that, do we? And then,
Can we just give a consensus that that's what I mean, it's not on the agenda, but, I mean, we all seem to be in agreement that that's the way we want to have him to go.
Ms. Fanning, do you have a question?
I had a comment, and listened to the discussion and listened to what we had talked about too in the planning meeting. I would see that, or in my small mind, that it would not be feasible for us to go with another company since Rebecca is already familiar with what's going on. And if we're going to part ways with Gresham Smith, and Rebecca was a major factor there, I don't see changing horses in midstream. It seemed like we were just.
I personally do not either.
So what I hear is consensus to move ahead, work on something with Rebecca, that's what I'm hearing.
So what I'll do is I'll get with Stephanie, we'll draft a letter, put Gresham Smith on notice that we'll cancel the contract at this point, and we will begin, I'll get something in writing from Rebecca that she will finish the project for the remaining amount of money and make sure that she can get it done in the same timeline that the original project was under. So, two ways you could look at this. Yes, she is a small business, but with her being out on her own right now, she doesn't have too many large clients at this point. So maybe she can dedicate the time to get our project back on track. But I'll have you an answer by the next planning meeting.
Okay.
Is there any legalese I need to do for this? Okay. Would you like to continue on with your report?
The plant number 1 demolition and MPDS permit termination, we are currently waiting on complete demolition to provide us a date. Substantial completion is by the end of the month. They say that they're gonna hit substantial completion. So once we hit substantial completion, that's gonna be my time that I'm gonna send the notice of the NOT to the state, asking for them to terminate our NPDS permit. The CDBG Phase 2 project,
So, excuse me,
yes.
are we up against any deadlines with the EPD?
no,
Okay.
no. So,
What's
the only
actually
thing,
left?
do what?
What's actually left?
They have to fill in, so the lagoon, the soil in the lagoon was, we were hoping to use some of that for filling, but we told Complete Demolition, you worry about just getting the dirt that we gave you access to at Public Works. Fill in the holes. We will worry about the soil at a later date. They're just gonna stockpile it, and then we just want them out of there, where we can get this plant terminated from the state standpoint.
Okay.
What hole are they filling in?
So the clarifiers that they destroyed or they removed, there's voids down there where we required them to go 4 foot below grade, break the concrete, and then, so essentially you're looking at a couple thousand cubic yards of dirt that need to be brought in to get these spots leveled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just where we remove some of the structures.
And is that, I'm just asking a question, is that considered in your FY '24 proposed budget? Is there some cost for the decommissioning, continued decommissioning of this plant, or is that done?
No, ma'am, it'll be done.
Okay.
Moving on to Phase 2 CDBG, all the clearing activities are complete, and we are still waiting on the ringing covers to be sent, but the contractor expects to start sewer installation within the next 3 weeks. And then the Flint River project, we received the contract from the state that Stephanie's reviewing for legal, and it has qualified that they're gonna reimburse us roughly 40%, or the $346,000 for the water line that's in the easement. So that's a win for us. And we're waiting for the easement exhibits to be drafted and approved, and then the legal descriptions researched. And we should be moving along with acquiring these easements within the next 30 days as well. But
How
all the
many easements are we gonna?
roughly 6. I think there's 6 property owners.
Any major hiccups, Stephanie, that you see in those?
Not that I see. Steve Manley is handling that, and he does an excellent job.
Everybody's been agreeable.
Yes. Yeah, there was one issue where one property owner said that they carved out a tract of land for his daughter. Well, it wasn't shown in the tax record, so we're working through that. But nobody's said that they won't do it.
Do we have any projections on, like, when we think this might be started or completed?
So, based on the contract, and I will make sure I add that, the notice to proceed and the contract requirements or dates in the next meeting. But GDOT just awarded the project to their contractor in the beginning of March. I know Georgia Power and the power companies are still trying to acquire their easements as well. So while the notice to proceed has been issued, I'm thinking we'll probably be ready to break ground in the next 60 days.
Okay.
All our materials on site. We purchased that to begin with. We acquired the pipe, and the contractor is just supplying the fittings and the fire hydrant. So from a material standpoint, we're ready to go. We're just waiting on the easements to be cleared.
Okay.
Looking at, we have no projects currently in the preliminary plat phase. The construction plan review, I'll give you an update on Pine Glen Mobile Home Park. We received the GDOT permit. We are waiting for them to activate the permit, and then we will give the contractor the green light to begin work. So that'll be good for that community.
And a good customer.
Absolutely. And, I'm missing a page, Charlie.
Approved land disturbance activities.
Yeah, XP Environmental, they just got approved. We should do a pre-construction meeting in the next, I think actually it's tomorrow, Thursday. Yep.
What is that XP Environmental
So
stuff?
that's a septic receiving station that's gonna go down on Rehoboth Road, just south of the Lakes of Green Valley. So it's really gonna be a great benefit to the community, because right now, any person that has their septic tank pumped, there's nowhere in Spalding County to take it. So the city of Griffin stopped taking septic, what, a couple of years ago? Or was it before? Okay.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, so septic waste is highly concentrated, and just to put it in perspective, a typical home that's on sewer is roughly 250, just don't worry about the units, just 250, right? Well, a septic tank is usually 26 times that concentration. So we're talking maybe 10,000. So this is really gonna help the community, where they're not gonna have to pay the hauling fee to take it across state line, or county lines.
So someone is going to make
Build a small plant.
And XP Environmental purchased this property from the Development Authority several months ago, maybe 6 months ago.
They're gonna discharge it in the creek down there or something?
Nope, they're gonna discharge to the sewer. So they're gonna treat it to
Okay.
roughly the
They're gonna
the
cool it
limits.
down, pump it to the city.
That's right.
That must be a good water customer too, they can use a lot of water.
Where are they gonna be located?
They're,
It's, yeah.
it's
in the list.
just south of the industrial park on Rehoboth Road.
Well, that's
I'm sure we're gonna
That's
hear a
been
lot about
incredible.
that.
need and problem here for years, so.
Well, everything's gonna be contained in buildings, so you're not gonna, there's gonna be no odor. You're not even gonna, no one's gonna know what's actually happening there.
Okay.
Yes.
They gonna do centrifuges or something? What's the process they're using?
Well, at one
No.
point, I knew they were gonna use a drum filter. I think, aren't they going like a DAF system now? Yeah, they're gonna use some dissolved air flotation method to,
Basically clean it up and send it on to the city.
that's right, to a certain point, because they're still gonna, it's gonna help the city of Griffin with the nutrient, or the BOD to the plant. So,
May I add, this user's gonna be brought in under our industrial pre-treatment program. So part of the reason, or the big reason why, as Joseph alluded to, septic is so concentrated, it's, facilities that we have, bringing it directly to our headworks is not a good option. It's damaging to the process and the equipment. So this solves that problem and makes it more of a benefit to our process rather than a hindrance.
They're gonna pump it to Potato Creek.
Yeah, which is the plant that's most suited for.
Right.
So people who are taking septic waste out of the county will now be able to take it to that place.
so the company that is building this treatment facility actually owns a septic hauling company. So they're right now taking it to Darpro or Barnesville or Henry County. So they're looking to relocate their entire organization here.
If you have a septic tank in the county, this will most likely save you some money.
That's right.
Because that, trucking that stuff to another county is expensive.
Well, I don't know if it was in this meeting or in the county meeting. We talked about requiring people to certify that their septic tank has been cleaned every
We talked-
5 or 7 or
We
something.
talked about that last year.
Was it us that talked about it? Certainly, something like that would help facilitate that, because there would not be the extra burden of people having to worry about paying to take it out of town. But, and I think it will facilitate that for us, requiring people to do that, because it wouldn't be an undue burden on them if there is a facility close by.
Yeah, we originally discussed possibly shortlisting a couple of companies that we would negotiate the rate for the citizens. And if they wanted to pump any tanks inside our boundary, these are the people you're gonna choose from.
Yeah.
Because they've been vetted, we know they're capable of doing the job. So that's an option. And then the projects that are currently approved for land disturbance activities, you have a racetrack, 2 racetrack projects, and all they're doing is just adding some additional diesel pumps. So really nothing it won't impact our system at all.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the general manager's report.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor? 8-0.
You got this down, sir.
I knew I'd be right before the meeting was over.
Take your shoes off so you can count.
Item 10, new business. Discuss the 2022 state water audit. General Manager Johnson.
So as you know, by March 1st of every year, we're required by our permit to submit our annual audit. The only significant change that happened between this year versus last year is we're no longer taking credit for a leak survey that was done in 2017, 2018. So the way we parsed out the non-revenue water with the city is more in line with what it probably needs to be right now until we do some studies to modify it. So our score is 54. It was 54 last year. And the 3 priority areas of attention are the same as previous years. So what our plan is going forward, in FY24 budget, we are asking for a meter testing pilot program where we're going to test roughly 375 meters to start addressing this billed metered line item. So the way that our contract works with the city, there's only so many different things that we can do to help our system out. So looking at the meter, since it's our cash register, making sure that they're actually working as designed. So that test pilot program is really going to give us an indication of, do we have an issue with our meters or do we not? If we don't, we need to go look down another avenue.
Joseph, you said our score, which it says here, is 54 out of 100.
Yep.
I went through this, it meant nothing to me. Is that a good score, bad score?
So it's all relative. So it's
One of those relatives, huh?
Yeah, what it does is it looks at that score as a function of how you rate from a 1 to 10 on the data. So your data validation. We have areas where we're really good with data validation, the areas that we're not. Well, we're working with the city to help reinforce and get higher grades, but one of the major points of our deduction is we don't really know, we can't say for 100% certainty that our meters are actually accurate.
So 54 is not a pass or fail number.
No, it's not. It's relative to our system and how we're progressing through the year. So up to this point, the Water Authority's been it's been a pretty flat trend line. Hopefully, we're gonna start seeing it go north.
You think we can swing a C?
You know what? We're gonna do our best. We will grow, we will get better. I promise you that.
It's strange that you mentioned this about this metering, and I'm like Dick, I don't know what 54 out of 100 is, because I'm thinking, okay, that's an F.
Sounds like you failed.
But
Sound good, does it?
I'm saying this because my mom's house was damaged in the tornado, and we have a lady who stays there, who was living there, and she hadn't been able to live there since the 12th. But she sent me a copy of 2 bills that she got from the Water Authority for that time. She hasn't had electricity or water since the storm. So I'm just trying to figure out how did her meter read to bill her for the last 2 months?
So if it's an active account, you're gonna get a base rate. So you will get a bill for $13.71.
Okay,
Basically, no water used.
but
That's
this
right.
was like 50 or something, 80. It was something that was more than just the base rate.
So,
So I'm thinking the meter, they didn't read the meter, or they read the meter and it was,
yeah, I mean, the city, they run, a truck to capture all our meter data on a monthly basis. So if there was no consumption, it would have shown no use. So my thought is, somebody's using water.
It could have been too that 3 weeks of the 4 was before the tornado on that reading period. So
It could be due to
it's
timing.
timing sometimes, but sometimes it's just a problem somewhere.
But without this pilot program, I can't tell you if I'm fully, if I accept that our meters
that's your
are,
confidence.
yeah, are correct.
Okay,
But I got 2 bills in a row. One was $13.91 and one was $13.81.
Base rate.
That's what my bill was.
Well, and
So I
then
called Joseph and told him, and they came out, and my meter was broken.
We love honest people.
yeah.
I should have kept lying, huh?
They're so rare. Can I touch you?
If I could get the information, the location of your mother's house, we can check the data. If they
Okay.
can download on that meter and determine if there might possibly be a leak.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that to you, but I'm just wondering if, when we are doing this with the meters, is this gonna increase our accuracy to know that what is going out to the people is actually
That's
what
correct.
the
So
meter is
you
reading?
may ask yourself, how did I get 375 as the magic number? We have 15,000 accounts. Well, I looked at these confidence intervals, and for me to sit up here and tell you within 95% certainty, I think our meters will naturally be within this range, it's just basic statistics. So that 375 is a sample size that is adequate for our total meter population.
Do you reckon that will help us on our grade
Absolutely.
over next year? Okay.
Absolutely. Because not only is it going to help us on our grade, but it's also going to give us a percent that if, say, the meters are tracking, they're 5% inaccurate. Well, now we can actually use 5%, which now, while we didn't bill for it, we accounted for it because we have data to support it. So, yes.
Okay.
We're going for 55 out of 100 next year.
Yeah, at least 56 or so. Improvement.
Are there any other questions for the water audit?
I'm sorry I got to. That 54 out of 100.
Yep.
Is that, we know relatively what it means, but what does that mean to the state?
So the state is looking,
What are the ramifications of being a 54 versus being a 75?
so you can't use our score against the city of Griffin.
Okay, I'm not worried.
You
about-
can't use it against it. So the state will actually, they have a list and they show every utility with their score associated with it. But that score is relative to that particular utility's circumstances.
Okay.
So what the state wants to see is the term demonstrable progress, where, what is demonstrable? Well, it's just get better. So in the audit, we were very detail-oriented, and we talk about, on the notes section, we detail out how we're getting these numbers, and then what we're gonna do to improve. So the state's just wanting to know that you're doing something, and you're not just saying, well, the heck with it, there's really nothing we can do at this point. So from a regulatory standpoint, nothing until we start backsliding, and then they call us and say, well, can we talk about your audit and what are the processes that y'all are putting in place when it comes to renewing a permit? If we're not good stewards of our resource, yeah, it could hurt us, but it's really gonna hurt the city of Griffin, not us, because we don't have a withdrawal permit We just have an operating permit. So the water audit really affects the city, so it behooves us to work with the city of Griffin to make it better, where their withdrawal permit will never be in question. Because the state could say, you don't need, if Brandon went and said, we need to upgrade, or we need to get an additional $10 million or 10 million gallons of withdrawal out of their creek, the state's gonna say, go address your water loss, and then come talk to us.
Kind of like the state verifying you have some form of an operating plan, you know.
For perspective, the city's score is a 78.
I just don't want the state to come back and say, okay, City of Griffin, you're not living up.
Yeah.
It's because of the county, and here's your big fine.
Yeah, I'm hoping we can swing a seat.
So, I'm rooting for a 55 at least.
Progress, like I said, progress is key.
Any other questions concerning the state water audit? Moving on, consider approval of the fiscal year '24 Spalding County Water Sewage Facilities Authority budget to include the GIS department as recommended by the Finance Committee. Turn over, Mr. General Manager.
Cheryl?
Make your sales pitch.
You have it before you. I'm gonna let Joseph do the detailed explaining, but we did include the things that I enumerated earlier that the planning committee had requested and the GIS project. And we still kept it in tow, so.
So I'll go into as much detail as you want on any specific item, but I guess I'll just start off with, if you look at the top of the page, the first set of blocks is your revenue, is our revenue projections, and then the second block is our expenditures projection, and it's broken down by department. So you see wastewater, we're projecting we're asking for $190,000. That is just for studies to keep the sewer feasibility train on the tracks moving down the road. The water, we're asking for $8.8 million, and then the GIS department is $379,000. But based on our expenditures versus revenue, right now we're showing a budget surplus of $37,000.
Why are we, in the fiscal year '24, why are we still budgeting for wastewater? What are we gonna be doing with that?
So that is just the
Sewer studies.
engineering studies that will continue the sewer feasibility, the sewer train. So it's the cost to serve.
Okay.
It's the, and
Policies and
the
procedures.
grant writing, cost to serve study, any intergovernmental agreement negotiations. The projects that are listed with our current staff right now is very ambitious. So I just wanted to provide enough projects to really make sure that we can keep the next 12 months and keep the sewer discussion going if the board wants to.
I think the question was meant that the existing plant, as you stated earlier, that's all covered in this budget. There's no money
That's right. So
next
if
year
you,
for closing that.
so to put in perspective, the FY '23 budget for wastewater was 2.2 million. We're going down to 190,000. So we have no operation, no personnel. It's just legal and consultants in the budget.
Well, I hope with this pending recession that you can sell $250,000 worth of tap fees on. We'll see.
I think that's a conservative number. We're usually closer to 300.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And these revenues don't take into account the 91 locations that we're currently working with the city of Griffin to get reclassified. So I think this is a good budget that y'all are looking at.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I don't know how the others feel, but I went through this, it sounded reasonable, had the projects that we were looking forward to. And I would move that we approve the budget.
Second.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes, sir. I would like to know how we are projecting that group insurance under the water contract is going to almost double from last year, from 44,800 to 80,900.
So we moved all the employees, all the taxes, anything associated with trucks with the wastewater department to the water. So that is a function of, if you look at the wastewater, FY 20, so the group insurance, we're $16,000 that we moved from the wastewater department to the water department. So we took all those expenditures that are associated with our staff and moved them to the water department to make sure it's captured. And then I looked at historical projections, and it's showing me that we're going to be closer to 80,000 total. That really comes from finance. That's just my wag at it.
Oh, okay, so I'm still confused. This year's projection was 44,000. You're not going to have that cost, which is 16,000 associated with wastewater. So even if you move that cost over, which is $16,000, how does that make us at 80? That's what I'm confused about.
So the group insurance, we're showing $64,000.
Oh, that's in FY '23.
FY '23, yes.
But we're adding employees.
We're taking the $14,000, the $16,000, which would put you over, right at 75? So that $80,000 is roughly $5,000 more than, but like I said, that really comes from finance. I was trying to use some projection methods to say, this is what I think FY '24 realistically could look
We've added
like.
Danny and Richard too for full years, so we've added employees.
Yeah, because group insurance is health insurance.
So what looks funny to me is that in '23, you're saying you were projected 64, or that's what we had, and then you say projected '23-year finish is about $20,000 less. So what happened with that?
There's a timing. So I don't know when Jenna posts to the budget. For example, our bonds. She shows our bonds get paid in March and September of every year. So if the summary that I'm looking at, the detailed account inquiry generated out of the finance software, if it didn't account some postings that were already done or that are coming, my simple formula did not capture that. So really what it should be is FY '23 projected finish should be $64,000, because that comes from finance. That doesn't come from us.
And so you're projecting that with 2 added employees, that increase in group insurance is going to be $20,000, basically $10,000 per person, right?
Well, no. So the new employees will be, the fringe benefits for the engineers already built up in that one, and the employee.
In GIS?
Nope. The engineer, we currently have an engineer position that I'm trying to fill right now.
Under the water
Yes.
contract?
That's correct. But, so, take Greg Elliott's $16,000, move it over here. So now you just went from 64 to 77. So I can revise this sheet to show $77,000.
No, I'm just trying to understand, when you see a projected finish that's 100% more than what it was last year, it's natural to ask, why is insurance so high, or why is that cost so much higher than,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll make sure that we don't run into that same mistake next time. I'll put anything that's generated from HR or finance, I will automatically default to what was approved in the previous budget.
Well, I think it makes sense it's going up, so with employees and swapping over Greg, you would expect it to go up, so. Well, it's 77 or 80, It's not a showstopper.
I'd personally rather there be more money in that budget than what we actually need.
Absolutely.
I wanna see worst case is what I wanna see.
So, okay, I'm on the next to the last page under water, where it talks about fire hydrant supplies.
Yep.
Projections for end of FY '23 is, maybe this is the same kind of thing, it's $10,000, but we're projecting fire hydrant supplies in the amount of $60,000.
So it's hard to, that is kind of that's our conservative guess on, one, we don't know how many fire hydrants are going to be damaged by our crews or tractors or cars. If the city goes out and there's an issue with the fire hydrant, well, if it's due to negligence, they're gonna ask us to fix it. So I just wanna make sure we're not gonna overextend ourselves. We definitely don't need $100,000 in fire hydrant supplies, but there are a bunch of hydrants that need to be raised. So as you're driving down the road and you see the caps that are 6 inches from the ground, they should be a minimum of 18 inches so the fire department can get one full revolution of their wrench. So we really need to start raising some of these. And honestly, we haven't had the staff until recently to dedicate someone like Richard to raising these when he's not installing meters.
So this is not for new hydrants?
No.
This is for basically maintenance
That's
of
correct.
existing hydrants?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess that might have made a little bit more sense instead of supplies. The other thing I wanted to ask you just below that, you talked to us a little bit about the meter test pilot study.
Yes.
And I see that the cost for that is around $215,000. I'm just, what is it that, tell me again what we're gonna gain from that?
So we're going to remove the existing water meter. We're gonna swap it out with a new one, and we're gonna have a independent company test the water meter that we pulled, and we're gonna get a trend of how well it performed or how bad it performed. So it's gonna give us an error saying, on a known volume, it should have read 10 gallons and it read 8 gallons. So you have a 20% discrepancy. So there's an error. So the test program is going to capture all the meter percentages, the accuracy, and then give us an overall system accuracy.
So we're replacing
Yep.
300 and something meters.
Yes, ma'am.
How will we choose how we're gonna replace
So it's
them?
going to be a completely random generated list. So what I'm thinking is there's a couple of different ways that we can do it. You could take the meters based on age and then say, okay, we don't want to really deal with meters in the 1 to 5 year range. You could look at it on volume captured, but to keep it true random, we just we have all our list of customers, and then we just do a random generator, and it tells us we'll take the top 375 after Excel does its magic. But yeah, it'll be a completely random sample.
That brings up a question. Years ago, on another board, I was told that water meters over time measure less efficiently because the water going through them erodes the blade slowly, and so you don't get that. So an older meter will not give you a true reading. You get less metered water the older the meter gets, so you're losing revenue.
That's right.
Is that
That is
basically the
accurate.
case?
That's right.
So these old meters are probably unfair to our side because we're not metering the water properly and charging properly. So this could save us a lot of revenue over time if we don't have this information.
So the meter is our cash register. If it's not accurate, we're just as good as the accuracy of our meter.
So our water authority customers don't have the same meters that the city replaced for people that lived in the city? I mean, I think I had
The
someone
meters,
a
so
couple of years ago.
when you talk meter, you talk meter base, and then you talk meter register. So we all use Neptune meter bases, and we use different registers. They have a register that will go into the cloud, and they can get data from a computer. Our registers, someone physically has to go to the meter and pull the data off the register while they're sitting there. So ours is a AMR, theirs is a AMI technology. And you may
So
be
what's
asking,
the new, the test thing gonna be?
do what?
The test meters, you said we will replace the meters.
So
What kind of meters will they?
It's gonna be our meter, it's just gonna be a new meter. So-
Okay, but the same kind we have now, just newer.
That's right, that's right. So anytime a new person wants to establish service, they get a brand-new meter and register, simply.
Flow meters drift over time, just through use or like age.
That's right.
They drift over time. Volume is, if you put more volume through it through a shorter amount of time, technically you got about the same amount of age, if you follow what I'm saying. It's a mechanical device. Mechanical devices wear down with the flow of the water, and as the accuracy drifts, it costs us money.
Okay.
And if you throw in, I don't know how many, 15,000
Yeah,
meters?
This could be a huge difference in
Yeah.
revenue with.
I'm letting y'all convince me. Okay, I had my question answered.
But so the water audit requires, to get a good score, you need to change out roughly 10% of your meters a year. Because a
Okay.
meter life expectancy is 10 years. So if you put 10% 1 year, in year 10, you should have cycled through your entire meters.
Right.
So it's gonna help the water audit score. And it's also gonna give us a known accuracy rate that we can then put in our water audit. And what I could do is, based on the percent, we can go back and say, well, this is what the water audit would have been had we known at the time of submission, this is what it was looking like.
Okay.
What does this 215,000 in the budget include? Is this just the third-party testing, or is this some of our costs, of our staff pulling the meters, the new meters going in? What-
Yeah,
what
it's
all does that
it's a turnkey project.
include? Okay.
So it covers the new equipment, the meter testing. So it's the backflow, it's the register, it's just everything minus the box. We're not gonna change the box. But it's a turnkey project.
I have a motion and a second on the table.
One more question.
Yes, sir?
Water line relocations, you're
Yep.
comfortable in not budgeting anything for fiscal year 24?
We don't currently have any projects on the books that we know about from GDOT, or I will update the board as we're aware. The only major project we know is the 155 redesignation, but that is years away.
I'm kind of like you. I would feel more comfortable if there was a number there, since we
Well, I
do
mean,
seem to, I
if
don't
we don't
find
have
out about
anything in the
water.
pipe, I understand why you don't have anything there.
Well, after FY '24, you'll start seeing numbers in that
Okay.
account.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? That'll be 8-0. Yes, sir? All right, next item.
Joseph, thank you. That's a lot of work, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Other business, the next regular scheduled meeting will be held on April 19th, 2023 at 8:30 a.m. in room 108 of the courthouse annex. Second item, discuss holding a workshop on April 12th, 2023 to discuss the community development block grants with Deborah Smith.
Mr. Chairman, I bring a message from Clay. He does not want to see a workshop. He wants to handle it through the normal committee processes we've been doing, and that's my agreement. We're having a joint planning and financial committee meeting on the 12th, already scheduled. My proposal, if you will, is we just handle it at that joint meeting. And if anybody that's not on our committees wants to come join us, they're most welcome to. If everybody wants to come, that's fine, but to schedule an actual workshop, I would think is the wrong way to go. Use the committee system that's been working well, so. That's my proposal.
Anybody have any objections to that?
You said that's gonna be on the 12th. When is a normal finance committee meeting,
On the
General?
12th.
On the 12th.
And when's the planning committee meeting, the week before that?
Yes, but we postponed it because of
Conflict.
conflict, so we're gonna have a joint meeting on that date already, and we just handle it there.
So we're basically already having a workshop.
We already have a workshop. And if you're not on the committee and you wanna sit in, we're happy to have you.
Can we,
You're on the planning committee anyway.
I know it, but I'm supposed to be out of town that week. Can we possibly get a Zoom on that, Charlie? Okay.
If agreed upon, the workshop will be at 9 a.m. So at 9 a.m., well, I guess we'll be holding a joint committee meeting, and this item will be discussed at it.
Okay.
We'll be there.
Location, Charlotte, here or?
4-H?
4-H probably.
4-H auditorium.
I'm sure she will send out all reminders. Secretary Treasurer comments.
Okay, just a couple of things. It's great to be back.
Good to have you back.
Yes, ma'am. March 31st is the deadline to have your tornado debris at the right-of-way, so please help us spread that information back out to our community. The company SDR that's picking up all of the debris will finalize their second and final trip around the county. If you have not had the privilege of driving over to the dog park on Carver Road to see the amount of debris that was picked up just in the unincorporated parts of Spalding County, please just ride by. You can see it from space. It is a tremendous amount of debris.
It's stored over at the hill by the dog park.
All the way in the back, yes, ma'am, all the way in the back. And they are working diligently to convert that to chips. And I've been asked several times where that material is going. It's going to Barnesville, and they are using it to manufacture electricity. They're burning it for electricity for our state. So we are contributing to our
Pollution.
Well, no, it's clean.
It's wood, boo, it makes smoke.
Yeah, it is a lot of debris. Please come by and take a look. Also, thank you for Joseph and his team. His entire staff participated in the budget preparation this year. I agree with the board. I think they did just a tremendous job at putting the material together. So thank you, Joseph and the team. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
General Manager comments? He has talked out. Authority member comments, I will start with Ms. Delaney.
None, thank you.
Ms. Howard?
I also agree, this budget's the first time I've felt really comfortable. I like it.
Ms. Matlock?
I want to thank Joseph for his hard work on the budget. He did a really good job.
Ms. Lattiser?
I just want to say to Miss Delaney that I did not say anything today that would make us not go out to Pine Tree. She knows what I'm talking about.
That's a private discussion.
That's it.
No? All right.
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
It's not unanimous.
How many was that?
That's
8-0.
8-0, 8-0, 8-0.